must recognize that the wealthy, the rich, who earn possibly 100 times more than you do or I do, are not 100 times smarter. And they don't even work 100 times harder than you and I do. So what is the difference? They just know more. They know the rules of business. And they know how to make money work for them. And they are always willing to learn new things. So that is the thing. I do not really believe, honestly, that the rich people or those who have been able to secure financial freedom are better than us. They are more godly than us. They are more blessed than us. I do not think so. It is just because they know how to manage, and they are always willing to learn new things. Can we move on? Now, a couple of things for us to think about. First question here, did you know that most of the things we buy and call assets are not assets? They are really liabilities. Maybe some of us don't know, but it is something that we need to think about. Did you know that you do not always need money to make money? Not always. These are important facts. Did you know that you could send your money to work for you whilst you sleep? Did you know that you could have every good academic qualification, you can have a very good job and still be financially poor? It's an important fact in life. If I take you back to like those of us from Ghana, if you go to places like Makwala, where we have all these women who maybe some of them had less education, but they just sell in the market. These are the people who build houses for the bank managers to rent and live in it. So it is not always your education or the job that you get. It all boils down to how you manage, the resources that you have access to. Did you know that most employees cannot survive for 3 months without a salary? I mean, sometimes we get fascinated when we hear that, Mr. A or Mr. B has got a great job and he's earning so much. We think that is it. He's rich, he's got a car, he's got that. But you have to sit back and ask your question that if this gentleman or our sister that we admire so much should lose his job or her job, would they be able to maintain the same living standard for 3 months and beyond? Maybe the answer could be no. Some could, but most will not be able to maintain their lives in 3 months. And that is a fact. Let's go on. So, if we take the traditional thinking of creating wealth and trying to secure your financial freedom, what we normally think about is first to get a good education. Go to the university, go high school, university, get all the qualifications you need, get a very good job. Once you get a very good job, we assume that yes, that is enough for you to make it in life. Or maybe to be out of debt, to be financially secure and all that. Well, we get a good education, we find a good job, we secure good benefit, and we work till we retire at 60, 65, 75, 85, depending on who you are and where you work. Fortunately, in Australia, I don't think maybe in every industry, but in the universities where I work, there is no retirement age. Yeah. So if I don't plan myself, if I don't plan my future, trying to maybe save money, put money in super and make it grow for me, then I will probably be working 75 years and will still be working and getting salary. And I don't think that is what we want. In some countries like Ghana, where most of us come from, the retirement age is 60. So you work till that time, and all that you hope for is to get government pension. But is that all that we can do? Well, the new way of thinking, or we should think about a better way of securing our financial future. And the new way of thinking is to be able to create wealth and obtain financial independence. I'm really not going to talk about how to secure financial independence because we have a gentleman here who is an expert in how to secure, your financial independence, and he's going to talk more about that. But what I want us to know is, well, we have the traditional way of getting your job, good education, and everything, but that is not the solution for you to be financially free. We need a new way of thinking, and the new way of thinking is to be able to create wealth to secure your financial freedom. Oh, there is water here. There is water here. Thank you. Well, I have been a Christian all my life. I was born into a Christian home, so right from a baby, I've been a Christian all my life. I've gone to many churches, different churches, visiting different churches. And one of the contentious issues that some pastors really struggle to talk about is money. It is really like a thorny issue, but it becomes more like a taboo because we really don't need to talk about money in church, because church is more about glorifying God, edifying God. But money matters, we just have to allow people to do what they want to do, and we seldom really talk about money. But today that is what we are talking about here, even though we are in a church. And I know that is permissible because I've been called in to do that. Well, life is not all about money. Money is important, but life is not all about money. We know there are more important things than money. The spiritual benefits that we get from coming to church could be more important than, financial resources or the money that we have. But money must be understood. It's not everything, but we need to understand what money is. Almost everything physical can be answered with money. A couple of things there. Money can give us the ability to do things that we want to do, the freedom. Money can give us access to better health if we need it. Even here in Australia, healthcare is free, but still money can make a difference if you can have your private, health insurance. Money gives you access to better educational facilities, and for those of us who are married, perhaps money can make our marriages better. Perhaps. So money can really, really do many things. And if I refer back to the scriptures of my limited knowledge, there's one thing out there which says the rich rule over the poor, which is Proverbs 22:7a. And a feast is made for laughter, and wine makes life merry, but money is the answer for everything. So it is really not wrong. I don't really feel guilty at all standing here talking about money, because it is something that is allowed, by the gospel. Okay. Now, to be financially secure, we need to take a decision. Whether we're going to live in poverty, live in debt, or we'll be able to get ourselves out of the bondage of debt and be able to live debt-free life and be able to build financial secure life, it all depends on the decisions that we take. So it is not just by an accident that somebody is financially secure and somebody is struggling. It's all about decisions that we take today. I know some people may be lucky by playing lottery or something and win millions, but that is just, a very small percentage, of people. But whether we want to be financially secure or not is based on the decisions that we take. We know. Go back. Yes, that's fine. Let's go on. Stay there. It is based on the decisions that we make, and I'm glad that when the Pope was talking this morning, he talks about prayers and everything, but at least we also need to understand some principles about money, and that is important. So we can thank God for prayers, we can thank God for fasting, but these are not substitutes for the information that we need for our financial success. God will give us all the blessings, will give us all the guidelines, but we still need what we need to do as human beings in order to secure the financial freedom that we need. Let's go on. So where do we start from this point? A very simple. If we really want to secure freedom, as most people do, then we need to have a definite plan. How do we get there? A plan is important. We need a definite plan, and we also need to have a desire that we'll be able to get out of problems and be able to create wealth. And once we are able to do that, and we depend on our plans, we depend on our ability, and we depend on our desire to really get out of debt and be able to secure financial freedom, we will be able to do so. And this is something that is said by Napoleon Hill. Well, if we need to have a plan, then there's no point for us to procrastinate. We need to have the plan now. So everything is going to start now. Well, we have to deal with the weaknesses of procrastination, excuses, and blame. We don't have to live like the way the rich people do. If someone you think is a rich, we are not comparing our lives, we are different. We really don't need to live like the way they do, but at least we need to think like the way they think if we want to get there. It is important that in order to understand financing and be able to understand real personal finance, you need to know where you stand. So to know where you stand, the first principle that I think is important for us is to build your assets. We need to build assets, and we need to shut down liabilities. So that is an important principle. And how do we do that? If we look back, we can see that the wealthy people, who we will probably call the rich people, normally will buy assets. They normally buy assets. But the poor people, maybe a bit of middle class people, often buy liabilities. These liabilities are disguised and they call them assets, but they are really not assets. And we're going to look at examples of those. So then, what is an asset here? Assets, from our viewpoint of our personal financial situation, will be anything that you put your money, anything that can put money in your pocket. So if you buy a taxi, for example, that is an asset because the taxi will bring you money, all things being equal. If you put your money in an investment property, that is an investment that is going to bring you money. But if you spend your money, you buy the latest model BMW just for your normal riding, that is not an asset in itself. On your balance sheet, we can have that as an asset, but you know that you have to service this Mercedes-Benz or this BMW that you bought continuously. You buy insurance, you buy petrol, you do servicing. So this nice car that you have, oh good, thank you. This nice car that you have is going to drain resources out of you. So it becomes more of a liability to you than an asset. So what we need to do is, first of all, we have to build assets. Once we build assets, we allow the returns to buy you the luxuries. A friend of mine told me some time ago, maybe about 10 years ago in Ghana, that I don't understand the Ghanaians who live overseas. He has lived in America for over 20 years. And he says most Ghanaians overseas, when they try to build a house in Ghana, they spend over 10 years building the house. Why do they do that? The reason is that you save your money, and every money that you get, you go and dump it into that building. So this year you get 10,000, you just go and dump it in there, and that is sunk. You don't get that money back. You come and work hard again, you get the money and you go and put it in that building. And because you are not earning so much here, you are unable to do it once. So for about 10 years, you become a slave to this building that you are having in Ghana, and you continuously put money into it. But what can we do? If over the 10 years you decided not to start building your house in Ghana, but rather investing all the 10,000, 20,000 that you send every year, you're going to build a fund over a period of 10 years. And that fund is now, or whatever you get from that fund, could then be used to build a house. And once you build your fund over 10 years, maybe the returns from that fund is going to be higher than the annual amount that you send to Ghana every year. So here you have really built an asset, and the asset is actually working for you. So that takes us to this point here. We first build assets, and we allow the returns to buy you what you want. So that's an important principle. But how do we do that? This requires strong money management skills. So that is where we go on now. In fact, let's take this to be like a normal class. So you can ask me questions as we go along for clarifications and everything. Yeah. Okay. So, if we're going to build assets and shut down liabilities, we need to know what they are. I mentioned some before. Well, some people will be very happy to call these assets. These are luxury cars. If you have them on your balance sheet, they are assets. But truly, are they really helping you to generate funds? To build the financially secure future that you are looking for? The answer is no, it's not. It's rather draining you on a daily basis. Well, all the kinds of phones that you can think about. You know, we buy them, all the iPhone 7 and Galaxy that and all those kind of things. We need them. But if you have them, don't feel so good that you've got an asset. It's a liability because you spend on it on a daily basis. It drains you. Well, if you can put your money in an investment property, if not an investment property but your own house, and you pay mortgage on that house, that is an investment because the value is going to grow over time. Well, if you can invest in a commercial vehicle like a taxi, that is also great in the sense that it will generate money for you. So all that I'm trying to talk about here is you should be able to know what an asset is and what a liability is. And in trying to secure our financial future, we need to focus more on building assets rather than liabilities. And if we have more of those liabilities in our lives, we try to cut them down to the extent that it is not going to make our lives uncomfortable. Okay. So money management here refers to day-to-day financial activities that we need to manage the financial resources that we have. For most of us here, we work and we get salary. So that salary we get is the financial resources that we have access to. So we need to manage that. We need to manage how we is going to spend that money to make sure that there will be something left, for us to use to build a future. So how do I do this? This money management thing. After all, I get my salary, I pay my bills, go to the supermarkets, I buy clothes. So why is it really necessary that we need to manage our financing? Well, this gentleman says he's got a clue. The other one is confused. So if someone is confused about how to manage, then the one who has seen the lights should be able to bring the other person up so that at the end of the day, everybody will be happy in the community. So, to really manage your money, the first point is pretty obvious, but it is important that we store and maintain all our personal financial records. Now, it's important we do that. It may not sound like a great principle in how to manage your finances, but it is important that we keep records of all our financial activities. You can take, for example, you get a bill, maybe electricity bill or water bill. You don't keep record of that. You don't keep track of that. and you forget to pay, what happens? You get hit with a penalty. So if you have a penalty, the money is going. That is, not something that you plan for, but actually there is a drain there. You need to keep all the records that you have so that at any point in time you will know where you stand. And if you have to pull out something to support your tax, for example, returns, you have all the records available. So it is important that we keep records. We keep records of all our financial activities. The next thing, I'm going to talk about this, but I wouldn't spend much about storing records because that is pretty much obvious. The next thing here is to create personal financial statements. Here we're interested in your balance sheet, your cash flow statement, and through your balance sheet, cash flow statement, you should be able to prepare a budget, for your family and then for yourself. I'll skip this too. So a balance sheet is simple, like a statement, which is showing your financial position at a point in time. So a balance sheet for a company is different from a balance sheet for individuals and persons. And for families, our balance sheet will record the assets we have, liabilities we have. And why do we really need to do that? First of all, we need to know all the assets that we have here. So we need to list all the assets we have, our liquid assets. If we have real estate, like houses, units, we need to have it. If we have personal possessions like car, computers, they are assets in one way, in some sense, which we need to record. And if we have investments in shares, investments in other mutual funds, government bonds, or corporate bonds, that is an asset we need to record. Then we need to determine our liabilities. So how much we owe other people. So those are the debts. Those debts could be classified as the current one, the most pressing ones, because we need to pay them, within a period of 1 year. And then we have long-term debts, liabilities like mortgage and stuff like that. But if we know our assets, we know our liabilities, we will know where we stand and how to move forward. So this is a personal balance sheet for maybe a Japanese family, which I've got access to. Now, if you look at this balance sheet for this Japanese family, they've got all the amounts here and in yen. So they've got their savings, their fixed deposits, their liquid mutual funds. So these are the liquid assets they have. So these are assets that they can easily lay their hands on if they have to be in an emergency situation to spend money. And then they have their investment in bonds, municipal bonds, investment in gold, investment in stocks and real estates. Then they have other assets. So our cars, jewelry, if we have given loans to our family members, well, they haven't done so. If we have other receivables, that's also, assets. Then they look at this family's liabilities, their home loans, most people will have that. They have car loans, most people will have that as well. But the point I really want to stress is, at any point in time, you should be able to know your value. What is the value of my family? The value here is what we call your net worth. So your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. So for this family, their net worth is 50 million yuan. Now this is an important point in the sense that if you don't know where you stand, you wouldn't know where you are going or where you want to go. So once we know that we have assets more than liabilities, at least we are happy that we have some wealth, but we can grow that. If we have more liabilities than assets, we have a problem in the sense that our net worth is negative. We have negative equity because we need to have like borrowings to support the assets that we have, and we have more borrowing than the value of assets that we have. And that is a situation that we don't really want to get into. So what is your net worth? Well, first of all, a balance sheet in accounting principles and accounting language must always balance. So your assets must equate your liabilities. Yes. So if you have less liabilities than assets, then the difference is the net worth, the value that you have created for yourself. So we list all our assets, list all our liabilities, we subtract our debts from the asset, then we ask ourselves, is the difference a positive or a negative? Well, since no one is willing to ask me a question, I would rather give you a job to do. So, if I have that, please. So, I've got this net worth calculator here. Calculations worksheets. So what I have given to you is just a way, because we don't really have to ignore this. It is important. So I want you to start thinking now. You may not really remember all the assets you have. You may be a very wealthy man, a woman. You may not remember all that, but at least I take you back. Just list only the five that you can remember right now. 5 assets that you can remember that you have. No one is looking at you, so just list them for yourself.
We should write the value of it, or?
Yes, the value. So, in the template that I'm giving to you, it's like different classes of assets that you can have, and different classes of liabilities. You are not going to have all these assets or all these liabilities. So just look at the categories. If you think you have cash, you put it down. If you have money market fund, you just put it down. But if you don't know the value, if you've got something like shares, you don't know value, at least you can have an approximate idea of how much it's worth today. Then you have the real estate property. If you have a home, you know the value of your home, at least a rough value of your home. If you have a land, you know that other landed properties that you have. You can have investments in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities. Well, you can ignore the other one, IRAs, pension plan, 401k. We don't have that here in Australia, so that becomes like a super. So this is just like an exercise to help us know where we stand. So once you have all those, your cars, your home furnishing, your recreational boats that you have, the yachts that you have sitting on the waters, put their values down. And then you go to the right side, your liabilities. How much debt you have. I don't think anyone will just forget. You can forget some of the assets you have, but you will not forget the debts that you have. So you can put down some of your debt, maybe as a one lump sum. If you have loans, if you have taken loans to pay your school fees, that is educational loan. You have other personal loans from friends, from the banks. You need to put those things down. I know you cannot remember all your assets, but at least you have a fair idea of how much you owe. So you put these two together, and then let's do the calculations. Your total assets, total liabilities, know where you stand. What is your net worth? Well, if you do the calculations and you have a positive difference, then you are doing well. You are doing well because you have some value. It means you have more resources than liabilities, the loans and stuff that you have. But if you work out this and you are in the negatives, then that is a problem. We need to work on that. Okay, so you can keep that, you can continue to do it at home, your own quiet time and your own quiet time and know where you stand. Okay, all right. You can do it at home, where you stand. I'm not going to grade this. No.
Your pastor is saying you need to bring your children.
Okay, let's continue. So that is an important document you're going to have. The next important document that we need to think about is your cash flow statement. Now, cash flow statement is important for businesses. It's very, very important because a business will have to know where money is coming from and where money is going, and they have to plan, accordingly. You need to know where you spend your money as individuals. So we need to get our cash flow statement done. And the cash flow statement is very simple in our case because the statement will just record our expenses and then our revenue or our income. So it's more about cash. With a cash flow statement, it's not like what you expect to get or what you expect to spend. It is real, what you have actually received and what you have actually spent on. So that is the cash flow. And we work it out as at a particular point in time. Just like the balance sheet, your net worth is as at a particular point in time. So we do the same thing for the cash flows. So our cash flow is going to be your total cash you received during the time minus all the cash outlays, and you will know whether you are having a surplus or you are having a deficit. So that is the interesting part of the whole thing. If you are having a surplus, then how do you deal with this cash surplus that you have? I'm sure our next speaker, Andrew, yes, is going to tell us what we can use that money for if we have extra money. If you have a deficit, then we run into troubles. It's not really good that we're going to have deficit, but sometimes it happens. For us as individuals, we need this cash flow statement because it will help us to make budgets. That is where we're trying to get to. If you don't know your cash flows, where cash is coming in and where cash is going, you will not be able to build any realistic budgets. So that is where we stand from. So for the cash flow, record your net income. For us here, most of us, it's our income from employment. If we do business, it will be the cash maybe that we get from our business. If we have savings, maybe we may get some returns, income from the savings account that we have. If we have other investments, we can have, income from that investment. For example, if you have shares, like Telstra shares or GMA shares or something, you're going to get good. GMA is Genworth. It's a mortgage company. They pay very good insurance. I'm not advertising for them. Anyway, but if you have those kind of shares, then you're going to have income, which is cash. Other sources, you may have it. Then we have to record our cash outflows. So the cash outflows could be fixed or it could be variable. At the end of the day, we need to determine our net cash. So this statement will then form the basis for our investment plan, basis for our budgets and stuff like that. So, how do we go about this? Again, another assignment. This time I will collect and mark them.
Don't come here. Now or never.
Don't spy.
If you are married, you need to have two because the women have their own money.
So what we want to know, what we want to do is we want to build our cash flows. And at the end of the day, we want to know whether we have deficits or we have surplus. And if we have deficits, what can we do? Or even if we have surplus, what can we do to improve the, our cash flow so that the surplus will be even bigger? So on the sheet that I have given to you, if you look at the first sheet, the first part, number one, your monthly net income. So you should be able to list that because these are the cash that you're going to have. And then you go to number two, your monthly cash, your monthly income, you know it, your salary, everything. So this is more like a monthly, spending plan. But it will be similar to the cash flows if you prepare it on a monthly basis. Now, if you go to the part two, we have January to December, and January to December we have some expenses that we pay, periodic expenses. We know we pay things like water, electricity, telephone, what again? Gas. Gas becomes more like a continuous thing that we do all the time. But there are some that we receive bills on a monthly basis, or maybe quarterly. Internet, yes. Radio, yes. Radio, insurance, car radio insurance, yes. These are the ones that come periodically. They don't come every time. But you can spread them because radio will come, depend on how much you take. But let's say you take it 12 months, then you can spread the amount over a 12-month period. If electricity bill comes for a quarter, you spread it into 3, and then you record what each month represents. So those are the periodic ones. We need to fill those ones in, and we can have, or we can know our total periodic expense, and then we can then break it to know our monthly. If we divide that by 12, that will give us our monthly portion of the periodic expenses. Because some of the periodic expenses, maybe it will come semi-annually, or quarterly, or monthly. But these expenses are not really expenses that you can do too much about. Now go to page 2. We need to record our fixed expenses. So some of those fixed expenses like utilities will be part of maybe, if you record them as some of the periodic expenses, then you don't need to record them again. There shouldn't be any double recording here. But at least we have items that are fixed that we need to know. So these fixed ones are your mortgages, they are fixed, rents, Taxes, well, if you have taxes to pay, taxes will not be really fixed, but you can also plan for that if you know you have to pay tax this month. Then we can have things like, if you have like credit card payments, which you have to pay on monthly basis, you also have to do that. If you have other loans that require payments, you need to record that as well. Well, if you have to pay child support, alimony, you need to record that, life insurance and other expenses. Now, the expenses that we label here fixed, and those that we label them periodic, some of them overlap, so we don't have to put them both places. But the key thing is those expenses are really not expenses that you can do much about them. They are really, really kind of fixed. But if you look at 2B, page 2B, they are controllable expenses. So these controllable expenses include groceries, food eaten out, household repairs, furnishing, appliances, transportation, personal medical care, education, travel, childcare, charities, clothing, savings, and others. Now, these expenses are expenses that you can control. So if you realize that your cash flow is showing negative, well, two principles here. Either you increase the revenues or you reduce the expenses. But we know some of the expenses cannot be reduced. But at least there are expenses that we have control. So those that we have control for will be the ones, something like groceries. I mean, you can take a family like myself and my family, myself, my wife, and our 2 kids. If we don't plan and if we don't follow the budgets that we have, sometimes I walk out, I come home, and I hold a loaf of bread. My wife comes home, she's having the same thing. So she's also bought bread because we didn't have bread at home. At the end, we have 2 loaves of bread. One will go into the dustbin. So these are expenses that we can control. There are many things that we buy which are controllable in the sense that we don't even use them. They end up in the dustbin. So we can reduce those expenses in order to improve, the cash flow positions that we have. Okay. So we talked about controllable expenses, fine, but in any kind of cash flows that you have, apart from those controllables, there could also be other leaks. These are, you try, to get your revenue, but then you spend the money on many other things that you have never actually planned to spend your money on. And these are what I would call them leaks here. And if we can get access to this website, can we, if you click it hyperlink, it will not. Oh, you don't have it. Okay, no problem. Otherwise, this website will take us to a website where we call spenstar.org. With this spenstar.org, we see people who are displaying things that they bought but they don't need it. More like impulse type of buying. And they spend so much money buying these things. So what this organization has done is actually to organize a competition for them. Those most wasteful families, they win an award. So if you go to the website, you will see a lot of things that people buy that they never ever use them. At the time of purchase, they think they will need them because you walk down Randall Mall and you saw something on sale and you thought, oh, this is great. You've never planned for it. You buy and you never use them. So those are the kind of things that can affect, your cash situation. And these are the things we should try and avoid as much as we can. Talking about leaks, coming from Africa and apart from Andrew, all of us here from Africa, we know that the leaks would not always be the unplanned item that we buy. When we do our budgets, we will go to cash budgets from here. we need to create a portion for emergencies. So the emergencies, for me, I will put some of them here as, leaks, in the sense that some of them are really, really unplanned. You will be there and then you get a phone call, so this and that. So all the money that you plan for something will just have to go. So I don't know how we control that, but I struggle with that, and I know many of us will also struggle with that. And they are important leaks, and they avoid or they prevent us achieving our financial goals. So we need to be careful. Those that are important, that we really need to do them, and those that we probably don't have to. We need to make that distinction. Okay. At some point in time, I don't want you to do these kind of calculations right now, but in your own spare time, you can calculate. If you have done your cash, if you have built your balance sheet, you know your cash flows, you can work out things. One, what is your savings ratio? You see, you have to know how much of your cash flow is actually going into savings. If, you think that there is no savings for you, that is a problem. But if you can save maybe 5 to 10% of your income earnings, that is great. Andrew will talk a lot about savings and how to make it really big, So I'm looking forward to that. You need to calculate your debt ratio. In fact, this is a big thing for most of us here. Our debt ratio is our liabilities divided by our net worth. And remember, your net worth is your assets taking away your liabilities. Now look at what is the proportion of your liabilities to your net worth. If it is high, you are running into troubles because you will probably not even have enough to pay for this debt, and you keep on piling up this debt. And we know this country how it is easy to run into debt. Credit cards. Some people hold about 3 or 4, and they spend on it, and they are perpetually, in debt. So if you calculate this, we would know, all I have is just 10,000, but I'm having debt of 20,000. Is it the right way to go? Perhaps the answer is no. So you need to cut down on your debt. You take the loans only when it is necessary. Your current ratio is your liquid assets divided by your current liabilities. So the liquid assets here will be the cash that you have. Or if you have an investment that you can easily turn it into cash without losing so much on it, they become liquid. And you want to have some form of liquidity with you because you need to plan for other expenses, sometimes unplanned expenses. So having a bit of liquidity is good. High is desirable. High current ratio is desirable. Let's look at this one here, debt payment ratio. This is your monthly credit card or monthly credit payment divided by your tax take-home pay. I calculate this all the time. I look at how much I'm earning a month, 2 weeks, and then how much I'm paying out as debt. Sometimes it's worrying. And if you don't control that, you will end up paying everything that you earn to your debts, to whoever provided you with those debts. So that's an important point, important ratio that we always need to calculate. Even if you don't want to take pen and paper, calculator, or computer to calculate it, mentally you should know a proportion of your income that is going into this debt. And if so much is going into this debt, then it's perhaps the decisions that you have taken in the past is not as good. Okay. Once we know our cash flows, the next thing that we need to know is how to develop and implement a personal budget. So the budget would then, your cash, how much you are receiving, how much you're paying. Those cash flows are the past. They look at what you've actually received, what you've actually spent. But the budget is into the future. So you're looking at in the future how much you're going to spend, how much your income is going to be. So budget here is your spending plan, and it helps you to live within your means. You have to spend, it helps you to spend your money wisely. It helps you to reach your financial goals because you know what to spend your money on. It helps you to prepare for financial emergency, and it helps you to develop wise financial management habits. If you don't have a budget and you just spend the money as and when it comes in, then you become something like, excuse me to say, a drunken man. So you just walk this way, you walk that way, sometimes you fall down, you try to get up. There's really no smooth way for you to walk, and that is really risky. You may fall and perhaps not be able to get up again. But a budget will actually smoothing the way you go about your financial plans. Many families will not have budgets, that is fact. But it is important that we develop budgets, for our expenses. So this is how we do the budget. I'm not going to give you another assignment here, but at least you can do that at home. You need to set our financial goals, where we want to be. Again, Andrew will talk more about financial goals. We need to estimate our income, so like what I've given to you, know all the income that you're going to have for that period that the budget covers. You need to have a budget for emergency, budget and emergency fund and savings, because as I mentioned to you, we need to have that because something happens unexpectedly, you need to spend money. So we need to have that. We need to budget for fixed expenses. We know what our fixed expenses are. We need to budget for variable expenses. These variable expenses are the controllable expenses that I mentioned to you. We need to budget for that. And I think that is where we can make a lot of savings. We need to record our spending amounts, and then we review these spending patterns all the time, from time to time. Once you have the budget, it is forcing you to live within your means. If something comes up, you walk through, you go to maybe Marion Shopping Center, or you go to Benside Shopping Center, you see something that is nice, but you haven't budgeted for it. Maybe you don't have to buy it. Because once you go there, you buy it, you are now going to live outside your means. And you may have to reduce the savings that you're going to have in order to fund this impulse buying that you're going to have. And whatever that you buy on plan, perhaps you never use it anyway. And they are the leaks that will make you, make your financial situation look worse and worse. So, we're now preparing the budgets. We all know, well, most of us are going to get monthly salary or fortnight salary. And our budget is going into all these kind of things. We have budgets which is going into how much we pay to the house of the Lord. That we budget for our tithes. We budget for that because we know we have to pay. Our offerings, we know we have to pay. We budget for that. Now, we budget for this here. This could be your own home or an investment property. We budget for that. We need to budget and pay electricity, telephones, groceries, well, some form of ornaments that you can have to beautify your house. So it doesn't come clear, but things like this here. You have those things. We pay for that. Now we pay for our children's school fees. So what do we see here? We get our monthly salary and everything is gone. It's like we don't notice it, but by the time you realize everything is gone, the question you ask yourself is, how much went into investments? Because that is where we need, if we want to secure our financial freedom, well, that is what we need. So we need to budget for this as well. How much of our salary or our earnings is going into investment? I would say that should be number one thing that we do. Instead of paying all these things, in fact, we need to pay this one first.
That's true.
Yes, so once that goes out of your account, I think the next thing we need to do is, based on our budget, based on the plans, we know how much we can put in the investment, and then we do that. There are so many investment vehicles that you can put your money in. No matter how small the money is, you can put it in an investment vehicle that is going to grow for you. Once we do that, well, we can be happy to spend all the rest. And I bet you, once you do the budget, you will realize how much money you have been wasting on things that you need to spend your money on as a family. Yeah. Okay. So putting it together, the balance sheet, your net worth, is a snapshot of where you are. You know your value from the balance sheet. Your cash flow statement will tell you what you received and spent over a specific period. How much you received, how much you spent over that period. Your budget is then your spending plan. So your plan spending and savings to achieve your goals. You can only save when you have a budget. If you don't have a budget, and even if you save your money, you find yourself going back to take that money to spend on things that you haven't really planned for. So, how do we increase our net worth? Because at any point in time, we have this here, our net worth. So how do we increase or improve our net worth? Well, our net worth can be improved if we have more inflows. So if we can have more inflows than outflows, then the extra can go into investments that can improve the net worth, where we stand. But then, if we have a situation where our outflows are becoming bigger than our inflows, then our net worth is actually going to reduce because we need to borrow money to support our expenditure, which is not what we would really want to do. So if you have this situation, then your assets are going to be lower and you're going to have higher and higher liabilities. So this is where we need to be. You can increase your income, reduce your expenditure, or you can do both. But I know that for most of us, it is hard to increase our income. It is very, very hard. But at least we have control over expenditure, so we can reduce some of the expenses in order to improve, our cash flow, situation, and be able to increase our net worth. Okay. So from this first part, what is the take-home message here? I'm taking you back to where we started from. Take-home message from this part here is one, build assets. Even if you forget anything, remember that build assets, shut down liabilities. Use a realistic budget, not just anything. Make sure what you put in your budget are realistic, based on your expenditure pattern. That's why you have to base it on your cash flows. Always pay yourself first. Pay yourself first means you are investing, instead of paying everything before you put something in your investment plan for that and take that one first. Well, maybe I will have to change it. That comes second. After you've paid all your tithes, and then that comes second. Live below your means. So that is an issue. And you can only live below your means when you have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you always live above your means. And that is when we run into difficulties. Pay off your debt if you can, because a lot of us will have debt overhang, and all that we do is to work to pay debt. At the end, we don't have anything. So if you can, please, let's pay off our debt as soon as we can. Don't borrow what you can't afford to pay back. Here in this country, there's so many borrowing opportunities. You can take loans for cars, take loans for a house, take loans for school fees, take loans for everything in your house. Do you really need to do that? Perhaps if we want to secure our financial freedom, we don't have to do that. Don't borrow to support ongoing consumption pattern. So you think you always have to go to restaurants with your family, maybe twice, a month or maybe every week. If you don't have money to do that, you don't have to borrow.